And here is passage 4 that picks up an area, linguistics, which used to be a fairly common area for the exam, for the passages. I mean, I shouldn't say fairly common, but the passages from linguistics were in fact picked up rather frequently. And the remnants of that are even today felt. If you look at the paragraphs that are given to us, you'd realize quite a few of those paragraph based questions actually come from languages and linguistics. So look at the very first paragraph. How has the Spanish language evolved in the hundreds of years it has been spoken on multiple continents? To answer that question, whatever, Garcia, let's call this guy Gigi throughout a discussion, okay? Makes it easy. He analyzed 900 years worth of texts in over 250,000 volumes. So see, I normally tell you in the classes that main idea is an implicit thing. You won't find it written in the passage usually. This happens to be one of those passages where I think the main idea is implicit. This is the goal, right? And then there is this answer provided to it. So Gigi talked about his study plan, his approach, then certain findings from that approach, and then we got to learn that he also did a past work on changes in Brazilian Portuguese. And there are these differences. Brazil, there was sudden shift, but when it comes to Spanish, there was no such sudden shift. Thereafter, the discussion veers towards was and tu, and how it remained was in quite a few places, but in Chile, it was tu, and then the reason is cited that Bello wrote something, but it was not embraced all over the Americas. And then, as an extension to his earlier study, Gigi wanted to contrast how the evolution of language in Brazil and Portugal compares with that of Iberian and Latin American Spanish. Great. And this is what he found. Right? So digital corpus. Corpus is a compilation of all the sentences that are used in a language. So when I say all the sentences, there are people who sit down and compile. They come across a sentence and they add it to that sort of dictionary of sentences. So when you say digital corpus is about 4 times larger, it means that there are 4 times as many real life Spanish sentences in that digital record, digital sentence dictionary. That's where it is. So let's get into the questions now. 13. Oh, it actually starts with that. The digital corpus in Spanish is currently about 4 times larger than in Portuguese. What can we infer? So look at the context, in fact, from the last paragraph. Why did he do that? Here, he wanted to compare the evolution of Brazil Portuguese versus Iberian and Latin American Spanish. And in that context, he's saying that the corpus is 4 times larger. So it yields a sharper picture of language evolution across distinct geographical areas. More sentences, you'd be able to see more variety, and you'd be able to correlate it with the location, with the place. So let's look at A. Linguists have systematically managed to preserve Spanish as opposed to Portuguese. No, both the languages are preserved. Both of them have a corpus. It is just that the Spanish corpus is 4 times larger. So this is not consistent with the sentence. B. Spanish is written and spoken of much more widely than is Portuguese. We don't know. Not from this sentence. Merely because the corpus is 4 times larger could also be because you had the people who made this corpus had more budget. So this is not something that we can determine from this sentence. Okay, then C. The evolution of the Spanish language is much clearer than is Portuguese. The evolution of, yeah, absolutely. The evolution will be, in fact, that is exactly what is stated in the last sentence there. Sorry, I missed out on that. Oh, I'm just moving forward. Let me take you back. This is, in fact, where we are ending with. It yields a sharper picture of language evolution. So this is definitely consistent. D. Spanish contains a lot of obsolete words that need to be erased. Nah, not at all linked. And this, I don't know where this has snuck in. This was not used, of course, in the exam. So C is our answer. Let's move over to 14th. Where are these I think there are some remnants of some people, just ignore that. So let's see. Bellow's critics would argue that. So remember Bellow, who wrote a grammar book which was aimed at spreading the kind of Spanish that was popular in Spain. And he emphasized that we use tu instead of was, but he failed. So Bellow's critics would argue that his book Castilian Grammar did not succeed because it was the language of colonizers. They anyway adopted it. It is just that they were not willing to pick up the variation that Bellow suggested. So this can be ruled out. B, not useful to indigenous Americans since they were not educated. We do not know whether they were educated or not. C, since the printing press was introduced late in the Americas, Bellow's grammar could not be absorbed by the people of Americas. No, but then the same thing should also hold true for Chile then in that case. So this is also not a very effective rebuttal. D, because indigenous people had their, absolutely. See, this is in fact the core point made by the author, that Spanish went out, mixed with the indigenous languages and thus evolved. And it was a natural process, whereas Bellow just tried to enforce something that came from Spain. But then he could not really overcome that indigenous influence, the power of amalgamation of those two languages. And therefore, this D is going to be the most effective rebuttal for us. Here is question number 15. Keep on ignoring this. 15. None of the following can be inferred from the passage except. So none and except cancel out. So which of the following can be inferred? Let's check. Gigi studied the evolution of the Spanish language from both written and oral sources. No, he analyzed only the written sources mentioned in the first paragraph. Therefore, this is false and thus can be ruled out. Option B, Portuguese progressed more rapidly in Brazil than did Spanish in the rest of the Americas. Yeah, that's true. That's consistent. C, the development of the Spanish language was generally uniform across the Americas. Hang on, there's some loud music around the studio. The development of the Spanish language was generally uniform across the Americas. No, there were indigenous differences, so this is false. Changes to the Spanish pronoun was and to was due to the influence of indigenous languages. No. Was, yes, but to, that is something that cannot be determined from the passage. So even D is ruled out, and therefore the best answer for question number 15th is going to be option B. And here comes 16th. The main objective, the one that is given right at the beginning. What was given at the beginning? Studying the evolution of Spanish language across the Americas, and that is what makes D the best answer choice for us for question number 16th, and that takes care of our fourth passage of mock 21.